The human mind is a battlefield. For many of us, it is a war zone where anxiety and worry are the occupying forces, and overthinking is the relentless pounding artillery that never ceases. You know this state intimately. It is the mental replay of a conversation from last week, dissecting every word for a hidden meaning that was never there. It is the catastrophic projection into a future that has not yet happened, a mental highlight reel of everything that could possibly go wrong. It is the gnawing feeling in your gut as you lie in bed, your mind racing through a to-do list that grows longer with every passing second. This state of constant mental agitation is not a character flaw. It is a malfunction of the mind, a learned pattern of thought that has become a prison. We live in a world that overloads our senses and encourages a state of perpetual reactivity, and as a result, our inner world has become a chaotic reflection of the outer one. We have forgotten how to be still. We have lost the art of mental sovereignty. But this is not a new problem. Thousands of years ago, in a world just as turbulent and unpredictable as our own, a group of philosophers developed a practical, robust system for taming the mind. They were the Stoics, and their wisdom is not a collection of abstract theories, but a set of actionable mental habits designed for one primary purpose: to cultivate a state of inner calm and tranquility, what they called ataraxia. These are not quick fixes or modern-day platitudes. These are ancient, time-tested disciplines. They are challenging, they are profound, and if practiced with diligence, they have the power to dismantle the architecture of your worry and overthinking, brick by brick, and rebuild your mind into a sanctuary of peace. Here are 8 of those essential habits. The first and most fundamental habit, the one upon which all others are built, is the practice of what the Stoics called the dichotomy of control. This is the master key that unlocks the door to mental freedom. The slave-turned-philosopher Epictetus, who understood the nature of powerlessness better than most, stated that the foundation of a tranquil life lies in this single distinction. He taught that every event in life can be divided into 2 categories: things that are within our control and things that are not. What is within our control is a surprisingly small but immensely powerful domain. It includes our own thoughts, our own judgments, our own impulses, our own desires, and our own actions. Everything else falls into the category of things not within our control. This includes our bodies, our possessions, our reputation, our careers, the actions of other people, the weather, the economy, and the ultimate outcome of any endeavor we undertake. The vast majority of human suffering, the Stoics argued, arises from a single catastrophic error of judgment. We try to control what is not within our control, and we neglect to control what is. Worry is the direct symptom of this error. When you worry about what your boss thinks of you, you are attempting to control their mind, which is impossible. When you worry about whether you will get a promotion, you are fixated on an outcome that depends on countless factors outside of your direct influence. When you worry about a future illness, you are trying to control the health of your body, which is ultimately indifferent to your commands. This is a futile and exhausting way to live. It is like trying to command the tide not to come in. The habit, then, is to become a ruthless discriminator of your own mental energy. Every time you feel the flicker of anxiety or the spiral of overthinking begin, you must stop and ask yourself a simple, brutal question: is this thing I am worrying about within my control or not? If the answer is no, and it almost always is, your only rational response is to let it go. This is not a passive act of resignation. It is an active, disciplined choice to withdraw your investment of mental and emotional energy from a bankrupt venture. You are consciously choosing to focus your limited resources on the one thing you can truly command: your own response. You cannot control the traffic, but you can control your impatience. You cannot control another person's anger, but you can control your own composure. You cannot control the outcome of the project, but you can control the quality of your effort and your integrity in the process. By making this distinction a moment-to-moment practice, you cut the engine of worry at its source. You stop fighting battles you can never win and conserve all your strength for the one war that matters: the governance of your own mind. Once you have begun to master the art of focusing on what you can control, you will find yourself better prepared for the second habit, which confronts our fear of the future head-on. This is the practice of Premeditatio Malorum, or the premeditation of evils. This sounds deeply pessimistic, but in reality, it is one of the most powerful and liberating exercises you can perform. The modern self-help industry tells us to think positively, to visualize success, to attract good things. While a positive outlook has its place, building your mental fortress on a foundation of blind optimism is a recipe for collapse when the first storm hits. The Stoics, being realists, advocated for the opposite approach. They argued that to be truly prepared for life's challenges, you must not only expect them but actively imagine them in vivid detail. Seneca advised that we set aside days specifically for this practice, where we would live as if we had already lost our fortune, our home, and our reputation. Marcus Aurelius would contemplate the loss of his loved ones, his own health, and the collapse of his empire. This is not about cultivating a morbid or depressive state. It is a strategic mental rehearsal. It is the psychological equivalent of a fire drill. By thinking through the worst-case scenarios in the calm and safety of your own mind, you strip them of their power to shock and terrify you when they actually occur. You have already been there. You have already grieved the loss. You have already considered your plan of action. This practice does two crucial things to stop worry and overthinking. First, it inoculates you against the fear of the unknown. The future is scary because it is a black box of infinite possibilities. By opening that box and looking inside, you turn vague, formless terror into a specific, manageable problem. You stop thinking, what if something terrible happens, and start thinking, if this specific terrible thing happens, I will do A, B, and C. This shifts your mind from a state of panic paralysis to one of proactive problem solving. Second, it is a profound generator of gratitude. By imagining the loss of the things you take for granted, your health, your home, your family, your ability to put food on the table, you return to the present moment with a renewed and fierce appreciation for what you have right now. The practice is simple but requires courage. Set aside 10 minutes a day, sit quietly, and bring to mind one of your deepest fears. Perhaps it is losing your job. Visualize it, feel the initial shock and fear, then move past the emotion and engage your reason. Okay, I have lost my job. What is my first step? I will update my resume. Who can I call for support? What are my financial resources? How can I use this as an opportunity to find a more fulfilling path? You are not dwelling on the negative, you are preparing for it. You are turning yourself from a fragile leaf in the wind into a deeply rooted tree that can bend without breaking. The third habit is a powerful mental technique for gaining immediate perspective when you feel yourself drowning in the details of your own life. It is known as the view from above. Worry and overthinking thrive in a narrow, self-absorbed perspective. When you are agonizing over a perceived slight from a colleague or stressing about a minor mistake you made, your entire world shrinks to the size of that one problem. It looms large, casting a shadow over everything else. The Stoics developed a remarkable exercise to shatter this illusion of importance. Marcus Aurelius described it as a practice of seeing things from a higher vantage point, of expanding your awareness beyond your immediate concerns. The habit is to consciously zoom out. When you are caught in a spiral of overthinking, you must force your mind to change its scale. Start by visualizing yourself from a few feet away, sitting in your room, looking worried. Then pull back further. See your house, your street, your neighborhood. See the thousands of other people living their lives, each with their own joys and sorrows, completely unaware of your tiny problem. Pull back even further, to a view of your entire city, a sprawling metropolis of millions of lives. Then further still to your country, a continent, the entire sphere of the earth. See it spinning in the blackness of space, a tiny blue marble. Then pull back to the solar system, then the galaxy, a swirling mass of billions of stars, and then the unimaginable vastness of the cosmos. From this cosmic perspective, how important is that argument you had this morning? How significant is that worry about your presentation next week? It shrinks into utter insignificance. This is not an exercise in making yourself feel small and worthless. It is an exercise in accurately calibrating the scale of your problems. It helps you to see that the things you are pouring so much mental energy into are, in the grand scheme of things, microscopic. This practice instantly dissolves the emotional charge of your worries. It allows you to return to your life with a sense of detachment and proportion. You can still address the problem, but you will do so with a calm, clear mind, recognizing it for what it is, a small temporary event in the vast unfolding story of the universe. You can practice this anytime, anywhere. Close your eyes for a minute and take this journey. It is the ultimate pattern interrupt for a mind that is stuck in a loop of self-importance and anxiety. The fourth habit is a practical daily ritual for processing the events of your life and preventing the mental clutter that leads to overthinking. This is the practice of evening reflection, often done through journaling. The Stoics were meticulous about this. Seneca would end his day by examining his soul, asking himself what failings he had overcome and what vices he had fought against. Marcus Aurelius's Meditations is, in many ways, a private journal of his own evening reflections. The unexamined life, as Socrates warned, is not worth living. The unexamined day is a recipe for a restless mind. Throughout the day, we experience dozens of small frustrations, disappointments, and anxieties. If we do not process them, they accumulate like unopened mail, creating a sense of background noise and unresolved tension. This is the fertile ground where overthinking grows. The habit of evening reflection is to create a dedicated time, perhaps just 10 or 15 minutes before sleep, to clear this mental clutter. You can do this with a journal or simply in your mind. The process is one of honest, non-judgmental review. Ask yourself a series of questions. Where did I stray from my principles today? Where did I let something outside my control disturb my peace? Where did I act with courage, wisdom, justice, or temperance? Where did I fall short? What could I do differently tomorrow to be a better version of myself? The key is to approach this not as an exercise in self-flagellation, but as an opportunity for learning and course correction. When you identify a moment where you acted poorly, do not dwell on the shame of it. Simply acknowledge it, extract the lesson, and mentally rehearse how you would handle it better next time. This act of processing the day closes the open loops in your mind. It takes the raw data of your experiences and organizes it into wisdom. It prevents you from lying in bed at night replaying your mistakes because you have already looked at them, learned from them, and filed them away. This practice provides a sense of closure and prepares your mind for a restful sleep, free from the rumination that plagues so many. It is a daily conversation with yourself, a commitment to continuous improvement, and a powerful tool for sweeping your mind clean. The fifth habit is a physical practice that has profound psychological benefits. It is the practice of voluntary discomfort, or what the Stoics called practicing poverty. This habit directly attacks the root of so much of our worry, the fear of loss and the insatiable desire for more. We spend an enormous amount of mental energy worrying about losing what we have, our comfort, our security, our possessions, and desiring what we do not have. This creates a constant state of inattention and dissatisfaction. The Stoics once again offered a radical solution. Instead of waiting for hardship to befall you, you must seek it out. You must choose in small and controlled ways to make yourself uncomfortable. Seneca, a man of immense wealth, would regularly set aside days where he would eat only the coarsest food and wear the simplest clothes. He did this to remind himself that the worst he feared was survivable, that his happiness did not depend on his material comforts. In our modern world of hyperconvenience, this practice is more important than ever. We have become fragile, addicted to constant comfort and stimulation. We panic if the Wi-Fi is slow, if the room is too cold, if we have to wait in line for more than a minute. This fragility makes us anxious. The habit is to systematically and periodically break your addiction to comfort. Take a cold shower, go for a run in the rain, fast for a day, sleep on the floor instead of in your comfortable bed. Leave your phone at home when you go for a walk. Deliberately choose the more difficult option. This is not a punishment, it is training. You are inoculating yourself against the fear of hardship. By voluntarily experiencing discomfort, you teach your mind that you are tougher than your circumstances. You prove to yourself that you can handle a little bit of pain, a little bit of hunger, a little bit of inconvenience. This has a cascading effect on your mental state. First, it dramatically reduces your fear of what might happen. You stop worrying about losing your job or your possessions because you have shown yourself that you can live with less. Second, it cultivates a profound sense of gratitude for the comforts you usually take for granted. After a night sleeping on the floor, your own bed feels like a luxurious paradise. After a day of fasting, a simple meal tastes extraordinary. This practice rewires your brain to appreciate what you have, rather than constantly worrying about what you might lose or what you lack. It builds a deep-seated resilience that is the antidote to a life of worry. The sixth habit is a stark and powerful reminder that puts an end to the greatest thief of our mental peace: procrastination and the illusion of endless time. This is the practice of Memento Mori, to remember that you will die. This is perhaps the most misunderstood Stoic practice, often seen as morbid or depressing. For the Stoics, it was the exact opposite. It was the key to living a life of urgency, purpose, and presence. Worry and overthinking are often fueled by a sense that we have all the time in the world. We postpone difficult conversations. We delay pursuing our dreams. We tell ourselves we will start living better someday. This is a dangerous delusion. The habit of Memento Mori is to keep the reality of your mortality at the forefront of your mind, not as a source of fear, but as a source of clarity and motivation. The Stoics would advise that when you kiss your child, you should remember they are mortal, not to be sad, but to make the act more profound and present. When you are making a decision, you should ask yourself, if this were my last day, would this still be important? This practice is the ultimate filter for triviality. It instantly cuts through the noise of overthinking and forces you to focus on what truly matters. Does it really matter what that person thinks of you if your time is limited? Is it worth spending hours in a state of anxiety over a work issue when you could be spending that precious time connecting with a loved one or working on a project that gives you meaning? The awareness of death is not a burden, it is a liberation. It frees you from the tyranny of the trivial and the pressure of other people's expectations. It gives you permission to say no to the things that do not align with your values and a fierce desire to say yes to the things that do. To practice this, you can start your day by contemplating the fact that it may be your last. You can look at old photographs, visit a cemetery, or simply meditate on the fleeting nature of life. Let the reality sink in. Then, ask yourself how you would live today if you knew it was your only chance. The answer to that question is your roadmap. It will stop you from overthinking the future and regretting the past by anchoring you firmly and powerfully in the only moment you ever truly possess, the present. The seventh habit is a discipline of perception that targets one of the most common sources of mental agitation: our judgment of other people. We spend an inordinate amount of time and energy worrying about what others are doing, what they are thinking of us, and why they are behaving the way they do. We get angry at their rudeness, frustrated by their incompetence, and hurt by their perceived slights. This is a constant source of inner turmoil because, as the dichotomy of control teaches us, the actions of others are fundamentally outside of our control. The Stoic habit is to practice objective judgment and to see others as our fellow humans, struggling with their own flawed nature. Epictetus taught that we are disturbed not by the actions of others, but by our interpretation of those actions. When someone cuts you off in traffic, the event is neutral. Your anger comes from your judgment that they did it to personally disrespect you and that they are a bad person. This is a story you are telling yourself. The habit is to pause before you make that judgment. Instead of immediately labeling the person, you must train yourself to seek a more compassionate and rational explanation. Perhaps they are rushing to the hospital. Perhaps they just received terrible news. Perhaps they are simply an unskilled or inconsiderate driver, a fact that is outside your control. Your only concern is your own response. Can you respond with patience and composure? Can you let it go without polluting your own mind with anger? This practice extends to all our interactions. When you feel yourself starting to worry about what someone thinks of you, remind yourself that their opinion is their own, formed by their own experiences and biases. It has no inherent power over you unless you give it power. When you are tempted to judge someone else's actions, remind yourself that you do not have the full story. You do not know the inner battles they are fighting. The Stoic ideal is to treat every person, no matter how difficult, with a sense of fairness and understanding, not because they deserve it, but because it is the right thing to do for your own peace of mind. By letting go of your need to judge and control others, you free yourself from an immense and pointless burden. You stop allowing other people's actions to dictate your inner state. You become a calm, steady observer of human behavior rather than an emotional participant in every drama, and in that calm detachment you find a profound and lasting tranquility. The final habit is a discipline of action and speech that conserves your most precious resource: your mental energy. This is the practice of silence. We live in an age of constant noise, not just the external noise of traffic and media, but the internal noise of our own chattering minds and our compulsive need to speak. We feel we must have an opinion on everything, that our voice must be heard, that we must constantly be contributing to the conversation. This is a trap. It scatters our focus and encourages a shallow, reactive mode of being. The Stoics valued silence immensely. They understood that every word spoken and every opinion formed expends energy. Marcus Aurelius advised his own soul to be silent for the most part, and to speak only when necessary. This habit is about becoming more intentional with your words and your thoughts. It starts with an external practice. Consciously choose to be silent more often. In your next meeting, do not speak unless you have something truly valuable and necessary to contribute. Instead of formulating your response while others are talking, just listen. Truly listen, with the goal of understanding, not with the goal of replying. Have meals where you do not speak, but simply eat and observe. Turn off the podcasts and the music and drive in silence. This practice of external silence creates the space for internal silence. It trains your mind to be comfortable without constant stimulation. The second part of the habit is to curb your internal chatter and your need to express yourself, especially online. Before you post a comment or share an opinion, ask yourself the Stoic questions. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? If the answer is no, your duty is to remain silent. Every moment you spend engaging in a pointless online argument or sharing a fleeting thought is a moment you are not spending cultivating your own mind. By practicing silence, you conserve your energy. You stop polluting your mind with the trivial and the reactive. You become a person of fewer words, but whose words, when spoken, carry more weight and thoughtfulness. You create a sanctuary of quiet within yourself, a space where worry and overthinking cannot easily take root. In this quiet, you can finally hear the voice of your own reason, your own wisdom, and your own true self. This is the culmination of all the habits. It is the creation of a mind that is not only calm but clear, a mind that is no longer a chaotic battlefield but a serene and orderly citadel, a mind that is truly your own.